Hi there, it's Curt with RealmIQ. We're here today for another RealmIQ sessions, and our guest speaker today is Kai Blakeborough. I hope I got that right. And Kai is one of our RealmIQ mentors. And Kai, just introduce yourself and tell us your background and your passions and how it's now intertwined with AI.
Yeah, it's been a great road, and thanks for having me, Curt, today. So, yeah, my name is Kai. I come into AI with a little bit more of a unique background. I come from a communications background and also in legal operations. So, I've spent the last 3 years in legal operations, and I got captivated by AI with the rise of GPT. And I've brought my perspective as kind of a communicator and a business leader and someone with knowledge in the legal space to my interactions with AI, which has been really helpful to me. And I have loved the potential that OpenAI unleashed when they released ChatGPT. Of course, AI is about way more than ChatGPT, but what it did was it allowed people without a tech background to have access to these game-changing technologies, and it made it a lot easier for businesses of all sizes to be able to leverage what AI can offer into their everyday workflows and processes. So I am thrilled to be a part of this, and I believe that for 100% of businesses and for 100% of backgrounds, that AI can help people elevate their work and achieve their goals better and in less time. And so my passion is to enable people and teams to do just that.
Absolutely. Well, we're aligned on that. That's certainly the goal and mission for Realm IQ as well. And it's very interesting that you have the legal background because there are a lot of considerations as it relates to
Yeah.
these data sets, these LLMs, not only that exist, now ChatGPT accesses the entire internet, not just up till 2021.
Uh-huh.
So, where are you scraping from to get, to make these decisions or recommendations? And so, from a legal perspective, there's a lot of pitfalls, but what have you run into? What are the discussions around that as it affects business?
Yeah, of course, that's a huge question for businesses because as great as the capabilities are, there's also significant risks. The three that I tend to lean on are, first of all, the ability for these tools to hallucinate. And anybody who's used these tools know that they can create confident but inaccurate answers. And
Hold on,
luckily,
is that what a hallucination is? Is that they just confidently give you wrong information, or is it something else like crazy, like they start to speak to you about your boyfriend or girlfriend or something
oh,
like
no, I would state hallucinations as like inaccuracy or lies, basically.
that? Okay.
But I think the term came up because it doesn't really have the moral capacity to lie because it's a computer software tool.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why the term hallucination was used.
Okay, fascinating. I would say I've worked with it every day, either that or Bard or Jasper, but I wasn't really experiencing a hallucination or something weird, but I have had bad information and
Yes.
and outright, falsities, and I did have to go check them. You can't ever take anything for granted because I always ask it, please cite your sources or give examples, cite your sources, just as you would your assistant, right? Someone that's working with you. And so sure enough, yeah, they had some real information. And boy, look, there's business information in there, there's revenue projections. And it's like, okay, I'm just going to double check. Is this a real company they're talking about? And I could not find it. And so I
Yes.
had to then go do my own due diligence and find the real sources to reference in a certain article I was writing and do it, the old fashioned way. So, oh my gosh, yeah, you have to check. You cannot take anything for granted, because I remember in the early days, I was, say, hey, write a business plan for this type of company. and they, went through the business kind of plan format, kind of is a standard outline of what you need to have in a business plan. And oh my God, they had projections within the industry, and it was kind of a nascent industry. It's like, really, it's $1 billion business. Why is anyone doing this? So, I mean, you really, they can write a good fake, that's for sure. But,
Yes.
most of the time, it's very interesting, the results, and certainly helps organize one's thoughts. And you can have an idea for, which I do a lot of blogging for, an article, and man, within an hour, and some due diligence, you could have a really compelling article. It's very informative. So
Oh, no doubt.
thanks
And
for explaining hallucinations to me. Now I know that I have experienced that.
you bet. Yeah. Well, and the good news is that it's very easy to train against that risk, because your people and your team just need to know about it. And if you know about it, then you can guard against it. And the simple solution is to anything you're relying on factually that the tool produces. So for creative work, that this is not really as significant of a risk, but for anything that you rely factually on, then you need to go and verify that with other sources. And like when things are integrated with web results or Bard, Google Bard just released a new feature called the double check, where
Mm.
it will run its responses against Google search. So you can see, hey, these are sentences are in green, these line up with our sources, these are yellow or orange. I mean, these are ones that you need to go confirm. And so taking those simple steps for things that you rely factually upon can save you a lot of headache in the long run. And from the legal industry, there's a famous example of the lawyer who relied on ChatGPT to make his brief,
Yeah.
and it
I,
invented cases.
yeah, I get that. I just got that thrown at me from a client who we're doing an AI project with, and I said, "Oh, please, that's just so last year," which is 10 years of history in generative AI. But what you bring up is very interesting, because risk mitigation and how you handle that, certainly within your own work, but within an organization. What are you recommending and teaching corporations in order to provide some guidelines, you know, some lane control? Remember bumper bowling, the bowling ball never goes in the gutter. How do you prevent the
Exactly.
bowling ball from going in the gutter with the stuff?
That's a great analogy, Curt, because we do want to put guardrails up while letting people explore how to leverage this tool in their own way. And there are really some simple guardrails that teams can put in place and kind of balance that out with really a spirit of innovation. And when you play within the lines, you can really come up with some unique solutions tailored for each team. So, what I would say as far as guardrails is that you need to, number one, you need to have a system in place that protects your data.
Mm-hmm.
And people using ChatGPT, oh, let's just let everybody use ChatGPT. It's not really a great idea if you're working with confidential or proprietary information. So, like as an organization, you want to look for some secure environments in which you can work that will allow your information to be protected, both for your sake corporately, but also for the sake of those who have entrusted you with that information that might have confidential info in it.
Yeah.
So that's definitely one. Another one I would say is to be transparent within your team about when you're relying upon AI, and when especially as you're just starting to develop processes that blend AI into your work, so that others can understand, oh, AI helped them do this faster. let's just have a little lens open to make sure, again, that that information is incorrect, because you want to guard against relying upon inaccurate information, because obviously there's a huge liability in doing that. So, and other than that, there's really, the next thing is really training. And this isn't just, training isn't just to guard against risks, but I've trained in my company, I've trained many departments, over 100 people, about how to use these tools and how to prompt well. And there's some people who just, after logging in, okay, I logged in, what do I do now?
Yeah.
It's the blank canvas problem.
Yeah.
So you're not only training to give them a foundation, to give those bowling ball gutter lanes, to avoid those, but also to actually help with adoption. Because if people don't understand how to use the tools, they're too busy. They're not going to use them.
Adopt or perish. That's what we say.
That's right.
Yeah, and yeah, the bumper bowling is a good analogy, because you can get a strike a lot easier with bumper bowling, and that's what we want people to do, right? Is be able to succeed. Not, it's not just an endless guardrail thing. It's like, no, we want you to get that strike and win the game.
That's right.
It's so interesting how, you've trained so many people within your company. Initially last year, they talked about the new roles that ChatGPT is going to create, and now you need a chief prompt engineer. And I think that's bullshit. I think that it's not a C-level role, because usually C-suite people don't have the time to train their people, and it's too expensive to maintain. But what they really need to do, and I don't know if you're seeing this, but is upskill your people and create what I call, and it's kind of lingo that's happening now, is an AI operation. How do you operationalize your existing workflow, whether it's in communication, whether it's in marketing, PR, whatever it is, sales? How do you add that AI layer into your daily tasks, and how do you govern it? How do you provide ethics considerations, legal guidance, and workflow training? To me, you have to operationalize that and make that part of your workflow and your organizational structure. So to me, that becomes the heart of success for your organization, because without it, you just have these lone wolves saying, hey, you need to use AI. Great, love your enthusiasm. We're too busy. Right? But more and more, the threat is there that your competition's using it. So it needs to be a company mandate, and then how they go about it. The goal should be to create an AI operation. What have you heard like in those terms, or do you see that happening, or am I right?
I think you are right, and the solution is going to be different for every team. Every team, and especially as you're talking about larger organizations, different teams may use different software or tools that AI will need to integrate with, and different departments or teams or functions will need different prompts to optimize. So I'm definitely in favor of team specific solutions, while having some centralized non-negotiable principles for how we're going to do this. So we don't want to be totally decentralized. I've heard some people say, "Oh, AI adoption needs to be centralized, otherwise it's just going to slow to a halt." Well, yeah, that's mostly true, but you do want those common core principles to be driving every spoke of the wheel as AI adoption spreads throughout an enterprise, so that we are working out of the same shared principles and reducing our risk in that way. But I don't see a role of like a chief prompt engineer, like you were saying, Curt. There are going to be best practices that need to be shared amongst teams, just like there is with any other software or function that multiple people will be working on. So definitely want to create a culture of shared knowledge and shared training, but also empower our teams to work within those guardrails to find the solutions that'll be best tailored for them.
Yeah, excellent point. Well articulated. So in terms of it's what you're talking about is self-regulation of corporations, because right now countries and governments are trying to grapple with this and
Right.
provide legal frameworks. And states are doing it state by state. Our government's trying to do it, but then again, not everyone completely understands it, and so it's a slow process, and certainly a big minefield for governments to step in, because what are they trying to do? But I think there's an honest effort within the legal community. There's some terrific advocates, and I think that there is a danger. You talked briefly about decentralization, which was a Web3 theme that kind of failed. What was great about the ambitions of Web3 was that it was trying to empower the individual to become their own digital autonomous organization, a DAO, independent of currency and fiat and governments wherever you might live. But that was a move towards away from big tech and towards what I called alt tech. But that failed. Okay, that failed. But here we have big tech now fully in control of AI. And to me, it's dangerous. And so it needs the movement needs to have advocates that are individuals from every enterprise organization, every business vertical, to be advocates to guide this. And we have to have a voice that rises up beyond the monetization plans for big tech, because they're in it to make money. Their shareholders want them to make money. And that's not necessarily the loftiest goal, because there will be disruption if it's not happening already in terms of job loss. But I think also, counter to that, there's job creation. If you look at the history of any new innovation, even starting with the internet, think about all the jobs that it created that didn't even exist before. And so there's always going to be new jobs created from new technology and rapid adoption like we've never seen before, certainly with AI, that counters the job loss decimation that is anticipated. But I still think there's going to be massive shifts, from AI trained people getting into the workforce, and those who are the dinosaurs who didn't want to be trained, them being left out. And what happens to those people? So
exactly. It's a really difficult but important conversation to think about what happens to those people. I saw a McKinsey study from a few weeks ago that said 12 million people in the US alone are going to need to be reskilled as a result from this. So obviously, like you just can't get around the conversation that this is happening. And the sooner that teams can upskill their employees, the better suited that they're going to be. And what I found is that it doesn't take a ton of training. If you get 3, 4, 5 hours of experience on your own with AI, then you start to get more comfortable with and connect the dots in your own head. But even in 90-minute trainings, I've seen people's light bulbs turn on. And I've seen somebody, who's 35-year sales employee say, "Oh, this is pretty cool." And then next thing you know, you start to see some emails that are a little bit more well thought out, and you realize, he's on his way.
Yeah.
And so there's just a little bit of empowering and equipping that will give employees the spark that they need to reskill and level up in this area. And that's just going to be a benefit for them and their future, but also for your enterprise
Yeah.
and your initiative. And so, yeah, there's going to be a huge sea change. And we're just at I don't think that wave has even crested yet about how that change is going to shake out. But the sooner that you can bring your team up to speed and bring the right tools into your workflow, the better.
Yeah, Jamie Dimon came out with a statement that we could be moving towards a 3.5 day work week.
Okay.
And so that was, he's captain of the industry in banking. So,
Yeah.
what does that mean? Because we talk about an employee's efficiency growing, time management. So getting the job done in 65% of the time, great. Does that mean your boss is going to just throw more at you so you make sure you get your 40 hours a week in? Or are they going to say, you know what, we're going to pay the same salary, but you only have to work 3.5 days a week because you're killing it? Or is it going to be, you know what, you're so efficient, we're going to move to a 3.5 day work week and we're going to reduce your salary by 35%? Because you're only working 3.5 days and you get your life back, right? And so this could go a lot of different ways, and it's going to be interesting to see how that pans out. Now, personally, I don't work for a corporation. I do projects and through my consultancy, and so my fear is that any pricing structure that I might give on a proposal, they're going to say, well, aren't you a AI expert now, Curt? And you could do this for, half the time. So why am I paying so much money? And then all of a sudden we're in a race to the bottom. So from the creative industry, what I'd like to see is holding prices on proposals and not amplify or, diminish the value of creative by saying, I'm just so much quicker now, quicker and cheaper. That's bad for the industry. I think by being more efficient with your client's work, we can tackle other problems and do more on behalf of the client, not do the same tasks for less. And this is a very important distinction for the creative industry, because on the agency side, I've spent most of my life on the agency side, ad agency side, creative agency, PR agencies, branding agencies. And many of those contracts are based on time and talent. Hey, we have a team, there's putting hours in, and it's all time and talent driven, and here's the price. And so the client in those situations could say, oh, well, do you have an AI powered team? And you could say, oh, yeah. And then they say, okay, well, then I want a 30% discount. And see, there's this danger of being so efficient that the value is diminished in the work that's actually done. And so, those people with billable hours, it's got to be a concern that even in the legal community, they're billable hours, right?
Right. Yeah.
But anyway, so those are kind of looming issues to deal with, but we need to have a point of view, because there are graphic designers out there that say, yeah, I'm an AI powered designer. Great. So what are you really saying with that to your clients? What are you communicating by saying that you're quicker and cheaper, or that you're clever and informed? So you have to express a value chain to your clients to say why you're efficient in this way, to not diminish the industry. It was one thing when Fiverr came around and you can get a logo for, $50, and I corporate identity. And it's like, yeah, go ahead. And, people challenge me on pricing for identities, and I just say, yeah, go do it.
When you pay
to
for
stop you, but you get what you pay for. You may end up with a copyright suit down the line because it wasn't an original design.
right.
Or it wasn't clever because it didn't tap into any type of metaphorical analogy that expressed the value of your business. So that's the creative community trying to justify what they do, and that'll be a challenge. I had to say one thing else that you mentioned: people are embracing this quickly once given a framework of instruction. So to me, the greatest thing, analogy, you probably use this in your training, is like, it's a conversation. People,
Yes.
and you have thoughts. If you can collect those thoughts and express those to your assistant, your co-pilot, your ChatGPT, your AI partner, then it is like a conversation. And that's the best way to get people to understand it. And in the chaining of your dialogue with your assistant, if you reward it, right, and say,
Right.
hey, great response, but now can you elaborate on this point, it'll do that because you're having a conversation. And that's what's kind of cool. And that goes to the learning that's happening within the chain, right?
Yes. Yeah, and you're going to get better results if you treat it collaboratively. That the one of the best things you can do with conversational AI tools is to send a follow-up message, to talk about editing, to talk about something you didn't like in the response. It's not like a microwave and you press it once and it's done. There will be some opportunities to automate some simpler tasks where that's the case. But if especially you were talking about in the creative field, Curt, like, yeah, it's not a plug and play. It's view this as a collaborative, like a really knowledgeable assistant. So if you kind of take that mentality going into it and use that back and forth mentality, then it's going to work a lot better than if you just say, okay, take this and then I'm going to use it right away. That's the type of stuff that you use the phrase race to the bottom.
Yeah,
that will get you to the bottom pretty fast.
right.
And ethically, there's a phrase that I hope everyone in this who's listening to this will keep in mind. It's called human in the loop.
Okay.
That is so essential. All it means is that we are leaving a human involved in some way within the AI process. And that's going to guard against inaccuracy, but it's also going to guard against crappy work.
Yeah.
Because you really need that human touch to enhance it, to tailor it to your circumstance, to the context that you uniquely know that the tool might not understand. And so that's, like I said, it's going to guard against inaccuracy, it's going to guard against crappy work, and it's also going to keep humans involved and allow them to reskill and enhance their work instead of just, as far as the job change and job purpose side is, kind of casting them to the side. Because ultimately, we want these tools to enhance human ingenuity and enhance human flourishing instead of to replace it.
Great point. And one additional point to when I was talking about an AI operation, there is a human at the center of that.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
In the design world, we have this notion of human-centered design, and that related to user experience design. Who's interacting with these screens. And so the same thing goes with AI. And so a human-centered AI or a human-centered AI operation needs to reinforce the fact that there is a human conductor in the middle of this.
Exactly.
Governing, advising, double checking, all those things that we've been talking about. So
yeah. And that's going to be the way to go. Like if we can agree on one thing, everybody who uses AI, it's got to be that.
Yeah.
And because the way these tools evolve matter, because we, like, as citizens of the earth, not to get too philosophical, but we have to remember that the way that the next generation experiences these tools will depend on the guardrails and the best practices we put in place today. So there's a lot at stake here, with potential and with the future, that in our unique time in history, we have a way to speak into. And so let's take advantage of that opportunity.
Yeah, let's take advantage and hopefully innovate for good.
Yeah.
And, you spoke about the next generation. That's a whole nother topic in terms of education, because I think there's going to be massive changes in how we educate generally our children and the next generation, and not just about AI, because these are tools. And the notion of human-centered AI also reinforces the fact that we aren't being replaced by robots. And I have a thing against robots, because I think when people talk about robots, it feeds into the dystopian narrative. And if we can accept that it's software and another tool, there was outrage when calculators came into the role of education in 1973, the early 70s. It's like, oh no, we have to use slide rules. And did you know that the slide rule was invented in 1640, the year 1640? Wow. So that's, a disruption of a 300-year-old tradition. So obviously we're disruptive with this technology, but I think everyone needs to embrace it. I think everyone needs to get their head out of the sand and upskill themselves individually, as well as upskill your employees if you have employees. And if you are an employee, become that AI advocate and ask your boss, hey, we need to be doing this stuff. So I just wanted to say we're running out of time, but I wanted to thank you so much. Do you have any events you want to promote or talk about that you're speaking at and coming up?
Yeah, I'm speaking at the Impact Conference, which is in next month. And so I'm looking forward to that. The tickets are available online, and I think it's a 3-day event full of, I think there's about 50 speakers. So it's going to be action-packed with knowledge and insight, and got a cool crowdstorming participatory event to kind of cap off the 3 days. So
I'm one of those speakers too, so I look forward.
Oh yes, that's awesome.
Glad we're both speaking there. But listen, Kai, thank you so much for joining us, and we want to have you back and continue the discussion. So thank you so much, and have a great day, and continue your fight and crusade within your organization. And hopefully with RealmIQ, we can actually do some good as well for other corporations.
That's right. Thank you, Curt. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, everyone. You can now catch RealmIQ sessions on your favorite podcast channels, including Spotify, YouTube, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and iHeart Podcasts. Or listen to the full sessions at curtdoty.co/RealmIQ. If your company is interested in reaching an audience of AI professionals and decision makers to promote your event or product, we do have sponsorship opportunities. If you enjoy these discussions on AI, please push that subscribe button below. I'll see you in the next video.
RealmIQ. Book your corporate AI workshop today.
Subscribe to our Media Slam newsletter and learn more about the intersection of design, content, and technology. CurtDoty.co. Branding, marketing, and product development.